In this lesson, we'll be using a script to separate our paths in Illustrator. Okay, so one of the things that we need to look at to be able to understand why we're going to run this script at all is our layers panel. So go ahead and come over here and click on your layers panel. And you can see that we only have two layers, our layer 2 and our layer 1. Now, if I toggle down layer 1, you can see that it has tons and tons and tons of paths. And all the ones that have those little triangles are the groups that we made for our X's. So if you have way more groups than this, than just those 5 that you see there, you'll want to make sure, as I said in the last lesson, that you don't have anything else grouped besides the little X's in your letters. Now, let's talk about why this is a bad setup. Well, if we brought this into After Effects as a composition, even if we brought each of those layers or each of those letters into After Effects as compositions, because we can bring an artboard in as its own composition to After Effects, it would only have the flattened layer of the letter. So that is a little bit of a problem if you're wanting to animate each individual piece. So what we need to do is place each of the letters on their own layer. And that's really going to mean each of the pieces of the paths on their own layer. So you have this line here, that needs to go on its own layer, not its own path. This line here needs to go on its own layer, not just its own path. So you can see that we have a ton of paths, and it would take a long time to grab your path, create a new layer, drag the path into the new layer. That would take forever for all of these paths. So there's a better way. There's a script we can use that will do it for us. So all I have to do is left click and drag around all the things that I want to be on their own layers. Then to run the script, I have it located in your project file. So we'll go up to File, and we'll go to Scripts, and you're going to choose Other Script. These scripts aren't the ones that we want. And then you'll want to navigate to your project files, and I have it located here in your Reference Files folder. So you'll want to double click that. And we're going to use this script here, Illustrator Convert Paths to Individual Layers. So select that and hit Open. And you can see instantly you just saved yourself about an hour of work. It all is on its own layer, and that's why we get all these fun colors. So now if I go into my layers panel, you can see we've got a ton of layers, and they all contain the individual path. Now that's how it has to be set up for After Effects to accept those pieces as After Effects layers and accept the artboards as After Effects compositions that contain those layers. Now this layer, the layer that we had everything on before, is now empty because everything got moved out of it. So we don't need it anymore. We can select it and delete it. We also don't need our layer 2 anymore. In fact, we don't want that to come in behind everything. So I'm going to unlock it and delete layer 2 as well. Now this gives you a little bit of a problem because if we deselect everything, you can't see anything anymore, which is why it was very important that we went in and we put our artboards in order, because once we save these, we'll want that order to allow us to know, we know what order the alphabet goes in. So we know that artboard 1 is going to be A because it's the first letter of the alphabet. We know that artboard 4 is going to be D because it's the 4th letter of the alphabet, and so on and so on. So that's going to make our next lesson way, way easier. Okay, so one thing that is a little bit unfortunate that you do want to take care of in this lesson is going through and renaming all of these layers. So you actually may still want to have your black background behind this. If you want to leave that on there for renaming everything, you can. So what I do normally is I'll select all of these, and you can see those are all in a nice little row. And it looks like this yellow one is our half hoop. Now that's going to be important that we name it that just for our purposes later on. So the naming convention that I would go with for this would be to double click in here, put the large letter A in front of it, and name it half hoop. Now let's see what our next one is. If I click this little target, it'll select it. This looks like A, and it's a small triangle. And then the other one here, this is a large half hoop. And then this one is going to be a cross, or you could say, you could call it something else, sideline, something like that. And this one is the A outline, so I'll just call it outline. So you can see how it's going to take you some time to go through and rename all of those paths or all of those layers according to what the path is. So then you can move on to your next letter. So I would recommend just selecting everything. You can see that's going to be all of these pieces here. So then just go through and rename. Now, I've already done this for you in between lessons. So you don't have to worry about going through and doing it yourself unless you're working on a different typeface. But it's a very good idea to name each path or each layer with the letter that it goes with, and then a little bit of a description around it. And that's going to make it way easier once you get into After Effects. So let's come back in the next lesson. I'll have these all magically renamed for you and done. And then we're going to learn how we need to save these and then rename those saved files so that when we get into After Effects, it's going to be as painless as possible. So stick around, and we're going to be saving this Illustrator project in a special way and renaming its files.